Association is.
Make sure you're ready to clap.
Okay.
Oh, wait, excuse me, yes. Introductions first, please. And sir, on this side.
I can't hear you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sir Jerome Jr., and I'm running for City Commissioner here in District 2. I grew up here in Lake Worth. I grew up in this community. This community I know like the back of my hand. I went to elementary school here. I grew up here. After high school, I went to Oral Roberts University, and I got a degree in finance from there. And then I went to Florida A&M University, and I got a degree in law from there. Between that time, I was working in West Palm Beach at Hoffman Federal Bank. It was Federal Bank at that time. And after that, I've been working in real estate. I came back to Lake Worth, the city that I know so well, and I wanted to invest my time in the community. And investing my time in the community, I began to get involved in after-school programs with children in the community here. And then I also wanted to get involved with the city. I began helping out, the commissioner in his race for a commission seat in 2012. We went from door to door, house to house. We spoke to citizens in the community, and we spoke about the issues that mattered to the citizens at that time. And one of the main issues that the citizens, said time and time again was that they were concerned about the utility. They were concerned about how much we were paying in utility bills, and they were also concerned about the infrastructure, but more so the utility. And so at that time, the commissioner over and over again, he assured the citizens of the city that he was going to do all that he could do to reduce the utility bill. So it's not to say that it was just, he just said, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. He would tell them, he'd start out and say, hey, maybe you need to conserve more energy in your home. And when they shook their head and said, no, my family's doing all we can do, he said, well, I'm going to do everything I can do to help you out also. But then when he got on the dais, and then they had vote after vote, budget after budget, and the utility was always an issue about reducing utilities time and time again. Thankfully, we had a commission that had the will to reduce the utility in order to help the citizens out in the city. But each time, he was the one that had the dissenting voice against it. He was the dissenting voice against the same thing that time after time he would tell the citizens about. Anyhow, what I just want to say is that when the commissioner gets up here, he's going to tell you he speaks all these languages, he does all these things. But the truth is, he doesn't speak the language that matters most to the city, and that language is fiscal responsibility. We need to have a commissioner that understands what we need in the city. We need a commission that's going to be open, and that's not going to be guided by any special interests that are going to come from, who knows who. So anyhow, I want you to commit to voting for me, and I will commit that I will have an open and transparent, I will be open and transparent with you, that we'll have smart decision making.
Okay, time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Meyer, and I am a candidate for District 4 Commissioner. Thank you very much to the Bryant Park Neighborhood Association for inviting me here this evening, and thank you all for attending. I am a small business owner here in town. I operate a salon on North Federal Highway in a landmark property. I grew up here in Palm Beach County. I went away to college and graduate school, lived in Atlanta for a while, but I came back to Lake Worth because I love this city and I feel connected to it. My public service background includes serving on our city's sister city board. I also served for 1 year in the AmeriCorps Vista program, working closely with Palm Beach County government, writing policy regarding poverty and homelessness. I am motivated to run for office for many reasons. Due to a lack of time this evening, I'm going to touch on 3. In 2012, my opponent took public office without having a single vote cast for him. This is not a good democratic process, and I didn't want it to happen in my district again this year. Our elected officials should be elected by the voters. I am running for District 4 Commissioner because I wanted the voters to have a choice in this election cycle. Transparency in our city government has deteriorated in the past past 2 to 3 years. The Gulfstream Hotel is a prime example of this. If you were to go to City Hall and request public records about this project, you might be surprised at what you hear. Due to a city resolution, this information is not public. The city believes that the plans for this project are proprietary. I believe they should be public. Residents should have knowledge about projects that will affect them directly. Last week at the Parent Cove Forum, my opponent stated that the Gulfstream is going to build a parking garage on South Lakeside Drive. How does my opponent have that information when you, the residents, are not privy to it? Because my opponent works for the developer. In fact, he recently received word from the Inspector General of Palm Beach County that his relationship with the developer of this project is an ethical violation. Another critical issue is that in 2013, we had a public vote in this city regarding height limits in our downtown. Nearly 60% of voters approved limiting building heights to 45 feet. Thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, and thank you to the Bryant Park Association for organizing this. It looks like a lot of thought was put into how to find a fair way to ask questions and ask the candidates. I appreciate that. My name is Christopher McBoy. As you probably know, I'm one of the acting city commissioners. I've been a commissioner for 2 terms. My background very quickly, I've been in Lake Worth in South Florida about 20 years, 17 of those years in Lake Worth, about 12, 13 years of that as a homeowner here. Very involved in the community in a number of different ways. I came here as an environmental scientist to work specifically on Everglades restoration. My background educationally is that I was PhD at Cornell University, master's degree in soil science at the University of Florida. Both of those things give me expertise in soils, water, and electrical issues. I have technical knowledge in those areas and also some background in managing contracts. All of that helps as one tries to make decisions with the city. As was pointed out, there was a vote not long ago that was a large majority in this community that very clearly said, we recognize that Lake Worth has aspects that are different from a lot of the rest of South Florida. And some of those relate to building heights. And we spoke very clearly, this is what we want people to do in our downtown. I was extremely upset at my fellow commissioners at how much they worked to make sure that that vote was as difficult as possible. They stalled off when they put it on the ballot, and once the vote was taken, and the message was very clear, they did not do what should have been done. That was a charter amendment. That affects how we define our city. That should have gone straight to Tallahassee immediately, and it did not. My opponent says a certain amount about transparency and openness and accessibility. I made sure that the city did not put a number on my business card that goes to a secretary or an administrator. I said, no, put my cell phone on that card. My cell phone is always on and it's always with me. I want to be very directly receivable. Sometimes I happen to be somebody who likes languages. Not necessarily a big deal, not a requirement to be in office. But in this community we have a lot of diversity. And trying to make good decisions that are to the benefit of all of the community, the more that you can relate to the different parts of the community, the better. That's why, in my case, it's been helpful to speak Spanish. It's been helpful to speak French. It's been helpful to know a certain amount of Creole. And that makes me accessible and an interest in those cultures and in all of the background. We have a Finnish community, we have German settlers, we have all sorts of folks here, and we have to figure out how to preserve that diversity and still have healthy growth that is in keeping with the flavor of this city and that helps us. And thank you.
Last but not least, my name is John Zerby. I know many of you here. Why? Because I'm around your neighborhoods. Why? Because I go to the board meetings. In fact, I've been on the board also at Bryant Park, and I thank you very much for having us here tonight. It's a little bit of a groundhog day. We've been here 3 Mondays in a row. A lot of you do know my background. I'm an architect and a contractor. I moved 10 years ago to South Palm Way, bought an old abandoned historic house. We fixed it up, not without any problems. It was terrible 10 years ago to get anything through the building department. Finally, a year later, we picked up the house. We got moved in with my 3 children and my lovely wife. We moved back here. We had a bright future, and what happened? They were going to build a 5-story condominium across the street. Now, my opponent says, oh, he was working for them. I was not. I was working for the neighborhood, and they know it. You can see their heads shaking right now. It was, I tried to get maybe a 2-story, 3-story project that might be compatible. The problem was the zoning and the land development regs, they were all mixed up. Why? There seemed to be something there why it was not over 6-7 years we didn't have any real development in the city. I don't know if that was intentional. It seemed like it. I thought, well, I can do something about this. So I got on board, and I clarified the land development regs, I clarified the zoning, and we passed all those plus 40 code ordinances last year. And I just didn't walk into this. I came to meetings over and over again. I came to board meetings, not like my opponent here. Came to none. He wanted to be on the board. Downtown Jewel said, I'd like to be vice president, and never showed up. He said he was on the sister board. He was appointed in August of 2011. By March of the next year, he was off the board. Why? I have no idea why he didn't take the ethics training. Maybe you can fill in the blank. He never voted. Ask him if he ever voted once. Yet it's on his. He talks about transparency and truth. Is that truthful? I don't think so. I wanted to protect our neighborhoods. That referendum that came through did pass slightly one way. That's fine. But let's think about that for a second. The state charter, that wall was coming down. I think Commissioner McCoy is forgetting the fact that we were told by our attorneys very, very specifically, you have this coming up. You need to wait. Let's see what happens with this because it did trump, and that's how they ruled. We didn't hire him to do that particularly. Now, the hotel that's down here, yes, I worked really hard. As a matter of fact, ever since we got those last summer, we have $90 million of new investments. What does that do for you? That'll bring up our tax base. It's going to help us lower our tax rate. And we're going to wean ourselves off the utility, which we've been trying to do. 3 years in a row, your utility rates have gone down. You're within 6% of FPL. Former commissions, which are associated to my opponent right here, you're looking at them. And that's, well, I'm doing the best I can, and I hope you vote for me or stay on track. Thank you.
If you have any more question cards, please bring them up to the front. Thank you, candidates, very much for your introductions. I appreciate what you're doing because right now the horse is standing up there talking. So I need to hold my microphone. Okay. The first question from Bryant Park Neighborhood Association is, how would you better utilize Bryant Park for the benefit of the entire city? First person to answer is Jerome. Second person is Mr. McCoy.
Yep, that's right.
Am I right? Oh,
Yep.
Okay. I'll let you know. First one is Sir Jerome, and you have 2 minutes.
All right. How would I better utilize Bryant Park for the betterment of the city? I think that Bryant Park is a beautiful community, and we can use it as an example for the rest of the city. So when we have people who are interested in coming to Lakewood, we can show them how great we can be.
Bryant Park, I think, is one of our stronger parks. And one of the things that I've heard, it's frequently used for dogs, and that's a good thing. But I've also heard that we don't necessarily clean up very well after it. I would be open to suggestions if people see fit to have a separate portion for dogs. That might be a thought. I don't know. I know that we've done a lot of work on the southern part of it with some pretty interesting playground equipment that I like quite a bit. Other than that, I don't have any specific plans for Bryant Park other than keep it clean and keep it going as it is.
You know what, I apologize. I misunderstood the question. I thought the question was about the neighborhood. I realize now that we were talking about this, the park specifically. So let me readdress that again if I can, Professor Harris.
Double check with everybody here.
Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, I just want to make it clear that I misunderstood the question. It was a little bit, you know, ambiguous.
Lake Worth has a number of natural resources, beautiful resources, that we are not capitalizing on, and I think it is our future. Bryant Park, the Intracoastal, the beach, these are all things that people come here to see because they are unique to this city. But when I look at them, I ask, why isn't the city making any money here? Why are there no concessions in Bryant Park? Bryant Park is the access point to one of the best kayak trails in South Florida, and yet there's nowhere in Bryant Park to rent a kayak. There's nowhere at the beach to rent snorkel equipment. We as a city need money in our general fund. We need businesses to come into the city, and they could utilize these resources that we already have available to us. Take care of Bryant Park, and let it take care of us too. Allow concessions to move into the area, and let us beautify and make that area more fun and a place that visitors would want to come to see and spend money. Thank you.
This is not a hard question for me. I live 1 block away from Bryant Park. It is a great park. It's a lot better than it was because we fixed up the boat ramps. We were instrumental in getting that done. As a matter of fact, we're going to be bringing some floating docks around there so people can actually, I'm a boater myself, I wish they did it also. Someone's taking up my time. And what happened is, you have somebody that may not have the best kind of business judgment. To bring a kayak concession there is one little tiny piece. We have the ability to make it a day dock over there where people could come and also come downtown with a shuttle. They could come to, we're wasting a lot of opportunity there for the marine industry, which goes by there all the time, to come in, park over there. We need enough things going on for other type of amenities as well, so someone's going to watch the marina. I know I wouldn't leave my boat there. So what we need to do is watch the day docks so they can come on downtown and use our businesses. We're missing a lot of opportunity with that. Also, our amphitheater hasn't been fixed up at all because we do need to work on that. We can re-sculpt the land. I'm a planner, an architect. We can bring some temporary, we can do some shading on there, make it a little more pleasant. But also try to fix some of the acoustics that I hear about all the time when we have some things going on over there. And that's something that can be done. But we need to get some money in terms of getting that design and getting our grants for that. So that's a real good possibility to take that park without causing more parking problems for my neighborhood as well. So I think it is underutilized, but there's a lot of people there, especially at the south end, and that parking got moved in so you can go closer to the water now. That was a really good move on our part because there's exercise equipment down there and pavilions for you to use. We do make good money there at the boat ramp too. You get a good pass, and there's a lot to be done over there, but we engage ourselves with the water industry itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Next round of questions, we will start with Commissioner Boyd. The next question is, what ideas do you have to encourage and support new business development on Dixie Highway?
Dixie Highway is part of the CRA, just to start with, so that we know where the jurisdiction is. It's not part of what the city makes decisions on or sets policy on. Nevertheless, the city certainly has an interest in Dixie Highway. I think some of the things that could be done are make that road more attractive and more a part of our community. At this point, it's primarily a thoroughfare for folks who don't even live in Lake Worth, who are just moving through. They're not necessarily stopping and doing anything in the businesses. It's not easy to get into the businesses because it's a pretty fast-moving road and a lot of traffic on it. So I would be very much in favor of any efforts that would make it more of a, what is it called, complete street, where you use both vegetation, trees, planting, change the widths, make it more accessible to other forms of transportation, and make it less of a thoroughfare. Those are things that I would like to see that the city or the CRA has some influence over. I would love to see more businesses on Dixie Highway. That's not necessarily something that we have a lot of control over. It's primarily in control of the landlords that own buildings. We may be able to find some degree of incentives, if used carefully, to help with that. The other thing that would help a lot, everyone here I think is aware that we have a lot of prostitution problems on Dixie Highway. That does not enhance our image particularly. As from my conversations with PBSO, they can't do a whole lot about it. They do stings. Most of you are aware that there was a big operation for the last month, almost a month long. But I can bet that they will tell you that within a month or two we'll be back right where we were. The best things that I hear from PBSO that we can do as a city to change that is make sure that we are extremely aggressive about our vacant and abandoned buildings and getting them properly boarded up. We're way behind on that, and there's no excuse for it.
The next question is, it's Ryan.
Is it Ryan?
Yeah.
As Commissioner McFoy stated, North Dixie Highway is in the CRA district. We, as a commission, should be working closely with the CRA to develop that property. We should provide them with whatever resources they need to make sure those projects go through. But I think that as a commission, we need to not put all of our focus on the business districts, as we have done in years past. As I stated earlier, this city is desperately in need of money in its general fund. Properties within the CRA district do not generate tax revenue that goes into our general fund. Currently, the only opportunity that this city has to make additional tax revenue and put additional money into the general fund is to develop our neighborhoods, is to beautify our communities. Not only will that bring revenue back into the city, but it will change the perception that people have of Lake Worth. People from outside of this community think of Lake Worth as run down, as poor, as dilapidated. I would like to change that image, and that begins by changing our neighborhoods, by beautifying, by rebuilding, by redeveloping, and by encouraging new people to come in and invest in our neighborhoods, to buy the houses, and to make our communities a great place to live. Thank you.
That's correct. I was in a meeting from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock today, so my hours are here. Sergeant is next, and then John Sir.
All right. I was a little anxious to get up anyway because I made a mistake. But anyhow, so we're talking about Dixie Highway and development on Dixie Highway, attracting businesses to Dixie Highway. Now, what Commissioner McFoy just said is that there's nothing the city can do to attract businesses to Dixie Highway. Now, does that really make sense to us? You know, when in Dixie Highway, when I walk down, and I actually do walk down, and I talk to the business owners there, one of the things that they say is that there's not enough parking. It's one of the biggest issues that we have with it, is that there's not enough parking when they have their customers come through, or their patients, or their clients, or whoever it may be. They don't have anywhere to park, and sometimes it's discouraging to people, and it pushes away business for them. They can only schedule a certain amount of people at a time because they know that it's going to be an issue. So one thing that we can do is that we can address the parking issue. We could try to, make sure that we clear up more parking space for them, or, build a parking garage, or wherever the case may be. But that's the first thing that we can do. The second thing is the beautification. We can beautify, if we beautify Dixie Highway, if you can look that there's other cities, and you can see Dixie Highway that it runs through our city and their cities also. And you can obviously see the difference between their cities and ours. You can see the difference between Lake Worth and a lot of other cities. Some of that is, trees. We could just add more trees to it. We got to make sure that everything is in compliance, but we can add more trees and things like that, and that would beautify Dixie, and that would make it more attractive to people and bring more upscale businesses. Now, the other thing, it's not me, boy, it was not commission before, but it's Ryan was saying, was beautify the neighborhoods and, beautify Lake Worth in general. And so, this is what I've been saying since I started running. This is the whole reason that I started running, is because I want to beautify Lake Worth. I want to bring Lake Worth to the next level. But when we start talking about the infrastructure and the bond, the same people who are saying, let's beautify Lake Worth, let's make Lake Worth better, they're the first ones to say, hey, no bonds, no infrastructure improvements, no. But then, all right, you said no, as soon as the bond doesn't pass, first thing they do is complain about the infrastructure.
With Dixie Highway, and I've been over there to, it used to be a little breakfast spot over there, now it's non-Victor's. And I've sat there and watched 2 accidents myself happen eggs and toast, okay? Now, one of the reasons is because that's a 4-lane highway with very little turning lanes. And we've been talking to the NBO about putting this road, what we call on a road diet. The road diet is where you have 2 lanes that go with a turning lane, and a little more room for bicycles, or even some more room for some trees, as Commissioner Boyd was saying and Sir was saying. We're really not looking at, we want some ideas here where you could come to any meeting, which you haven't been to any of the commission meetings before. If you have ideas, come on and talk to us. Everybody else does. And so what we want to do is we want to take that road, reduce it, and make it safer. If you narrow the lanes and you bring that in, you will slow that traffic down. You won't have so much traffic. People will see the businesses. And as far as parking goes, the CRA has purchased some lots, and there are some parking lots there. What are they? They're placeholders. Right now they give us some parking relief, and we encourage them to also pick up some other property. In the future, when there is more business, then those back parcels become more valuable, and they will also be purchased for those properties to make a much better parking arrangement behind them, and also to have some parking possibly on some bump outs near the street. That will slow down the traffic there. We've already been talking. I've had a lifelong friend in the Florida DOT. He's retired now, but we talked many times about this. This is nothing new. This is happening in different parts on Dixie Highway, up and down our South Florida border. So we're working on that, and it deserves it because Dixie Highway, when you come in from 6th and 10th, those are very important arteries to come in. When you come in on our Wishbone, and you come on into downtown, that's very important. So Dixie Highway is on our radar. We've been working on it, and you should see some things coming as well. Thank you.
The final question for Ryan Park Neighborhood Association is, and start off with Ryan Meyer, is what are some ideas you have for nuisance abatement programs?